Welcome back to another week of the Launch Sequence podcast. An important week, folks. We're towards the end of February, and it's been quite the year for Star Citizen. So I decided to bring in a big guest, somebody I've been trying to get a hold of for a while, but we've got some time zone stuff going on. He's a busy man, but Morphologis has been able to join me today. And how are you doing, man?
I'm doing great, man. How are you doing?
I'm a little tired. It's early in the morning. We have this weird thing. Yeah, he's late at night. I'm early in the morning. You're all the way over in Taiwan, right?
That's right.
I gotta say,
I am in Taiwan.
First of all, my best goes out to you. I know there's a lot of anxiety there with what's going on right now in the world in Ukraine, and I've seen your post as well. And I'm sorry you got to go through that. I'm sure that's a big complication in your future. So I hope everything goes smoothly there. Yeah,
same. I mean, it's I have no control over it, and just have to, hope for the best and prepare for the worst.
Right.
It is what it is,
Well,
at least I'm not going through what Space Cutlet is going through right now. Like
right.
he and his family are having a really rough time of it. So best wishes to them.
Mm-hmm.
And just, I made that post, but I don't want to belittle what's going through Ukraine. It's just that China seems to be looking at Taiwan just the same way as, Russia's been eyeing Ukraine. So I can't believe it's happening. It's crazy. It's unreal.
Yeah.
Can't believe it's happening. Yeah. It's unbelievable that it's unreal, like that it's happening. And
yeah, honestly, I think
that's where we are.
Not to get too off topic, but I think everybody who's listening to this, who is a Star Citizen fan or is following creators, if you know Cutlet, he is indeed in this area right now, and there's a campaign going on, started by Moist Noodle. So if you're looking for a way to help, that is a great way, just to help them get a place to stay in a hotel while they can evacuate their own home. But anyways, let's get on to you, Morphologis, because I've been super curious about, honestly, a lot of your work. I don't even know where to start, really. Many people know your content. Obviously, I would say you are the biggest YouTuber who regularly covers Star Citizen. And so a lot of people know and watch your content, but everybody knows you as an architect. So
yeah.
Can we can you tell me how you went from architecture to playing games to eventually making videos for games?
Well, I mean, I didn't go from one thing to the other, really. It was
Sure.
more like something I did as a hobby on the side. While I was in university, I was playing a lot of PlanetSide 2, and I was watching, really famous YouTubers like Frankie 1080p on PC. I don't know. I'm sure you know who he is.
Yeah.
He used to do DayZ stuff, one of the most famous YouTubers back in the day. And I was like, it seems like something like I could do. I mean, I didn't realize the difficulties involved in that. Of course, I was naive. But I started making videos on PlanetSide, and one thing led to another, and I really liked it. And I just, I stuck with it.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually I found myself doing videos on the side for space engineers, and it was Star Citizen. Maybe I'm getting ahead of myself. Anyway, so it's just been something that I've constantly done on the side, with the little time that I actually have. I do keep myself rather busy. I don't have a whole lot of free time, sadly, because of it.
I think that's the biggest thing, honestly, because I do this full time. I know plenty of people who do this on the side as well. A lot of times people will do maybe a YouTube channel and a part-time job or something, but I imagine architecture takes a lot of time. And then I look at the videos you make, and I'm just like, how in the world do you balance that? That's so much.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the consistency of my channel's postings has to suffer because of it. Sometimes I don't post videos every week like I should, like the algorithms and that's just kind of the way it goes. But the way I look at it is, it's a hobby ultimately, and if I can't make the algorithms happy, so be it. I'll just keep making videos that I want to make, that I enjoy making, on a topic that I enjoy making videos on. So,
I've always respected that about your channel, is that it feels like you put videos out when they're ready, which I push myself to try to do. I give myself too much stress about meeting some schedule, like you said. But I really do like that. I feel like you're one of the few channels that I see that's just when a video comes out, it comes out, and there's usually a reason to click on it.
Exactly. And I found that the counter to what a lot of people will say who tell you how to be successful on YouTube and with content creation, I have found that if you do continually put out consistent quality videos, you hold yourself to a standard to constantly improve, that you do eventually grow. It's hard, but it does happen, and you don't have to necessarily follow, the post as many videos as you can a day sort of template that people recommend. I think that's a fast way to burn yourself out and just make you hate what you do.
Yep.
So, and plus I just don't have the time for it. I'll be honest, like I don't have more time to post more videos. Like that one video a week thing that I do,
Mm-hmm.
I barely am able to hold on to that. I couldn't do any more than that if I wanted to. So
I get that. Yeah, I get that.
So might as well make it a good one, right? If I'm gonna make a video a week, I put some effort into it. And if I got a little time here on Monday or on Tuesday or something, or while I'm streaming, I'll record some B-roll or some footage that that I think might help with the video that I've got planned, or maybe it will help me think of a good idea for making a video. Sometimes I don't always know, and I just start recording. I was like, all right, I make a video out of this. This looks cool.
Yeah,
that sort of thing.
Yeah, I know that one. Yeah, I get that. And you were saying that it's difficult to do, and like there's no real guidebook, there's no rule book. So when people are like asking, how do I do this? Do I post a video every week? Do I post a video every day? It's like, well, you got to find your own, you got to find your groove. You got to find that quality that you like, and then figure out the rate at which that comes out. And like, it comes together eventually. It takes a lot of work, like you said, and it takes more than just kind of coming up with a video and putting it out. It's a lot of thought that goes into it. But that's what I've learned, is like there's no one case fits all, especially not for a game like Star Citizen, if you want to make content to cover it.
But I do say, like, there's no rule book, but you do eventually create a set of rules for yourself for what you think you're capable of doing, and people become accustomed to that when they visit your channel. It becomes your brand, and what people expect out of you. So as long as you stick to those rules that you make for yourself consistently, people will appreciate that. It's like if you keep making quality videos and then one day make a clickbait video where you're showing other people's video clips with funny things going over the top of it, people are like, where did this come from? That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
So
that's a very difficult balance to hit. I don't know if that's unique to YouTube. I mean, I'm sure that happens on other platforms, Instagram and TikTok and like other things, but that's definitely, you have an audience that you build that's looking at your content, that loves the content, that vibes with it. And then you have, maybe a subset of people who would enjoy another game that you like, let's say in your case, Space Engineers. And it's like, it's trying to find that balance of how do the people who like this game, how are they going to be interested in a video for this game? Because you got to serve the people that are always watching your stuff, but the goal is to always be able to reach those folks who need it most, and those folks aren't already watching your channel. So there is like this whole strategy that goes into this, is generally for the benefit of people watching, but a whole strategy that goes into like trying to pick how you're going to make videos and lay them out. It's really something.
Yeah, it is. It's really something, and it's fun. That's why I do it. I mean, it's interesting to me. I like thinking about it and coming up with stuff.
Yeah. So
yeah,
that actually brings me to the next question quite well, because you did say that this is sort of a hobby for you. This is something that you do in your free time. Do you ever see this getting to a point? This might be a little too early to answer if you don't want to, but do you ever see yourself getting to a point where this is switches to your profession? Is something you would rather move forward doing?
I don't think so. The reason why I say that isn't because I don't think I could financially support myself on it. Actually, right now, things are pretty decent despite the downturn that usually comes after the end of the year. Like my income levels have become comfortable thanks to the gracious community that follows me and enjoys the work that I do. But I think that if I were to choose to do that by itself, it would diminish a part of me and what I love, which is architecture. So I couldn't give it up. I love architecture as a profession the same way I love covering Star Citizen and video games in general. It's a passion. It's very much a passion profession. I would say if anybody's thinking about getting into it, you've got to be passionate about it to continue with it, because it's not as glorious or wonderful as maybe some books would have you believe, or like TV shows would have you believe about what those people's lives are, architects' lives are like. It's pretty boring most of the time, but it can be really gratifying. So yeah, I guess my short of it is no, I don't think I would. But I'm definitely not going to give it up. So the thing for me is, like, because it's become more successful, I've gone from a point where it's been like it's not that important, and I'll put a video out, when I can, to I should stick to something. I should at least put out a video consistently as much
Mhm.
as possible, because it is a good source of income aside from it being a fun hobby. So I'm already at that point. Yeah, I don't think I'll ever go beyond that. The things that I think is interesting for me is that the skills that I've learned in doing YouTube and even streaming to some extent have translated into my professional career in things like self-confidence, speaking skills, being able to think on my feet, and also, mechanical skills like being able to put together videos and organize a series of, like, a story basically within a video. So like I did a video for for one of the projects that we did to submit to an award organization to for them to consider our project. And I think that without the skills I learned on YouTube, I wouldn't have been able to do that. So, and I don't think the project would have been selected, even because the presentation itself is really important to have your project selected as one of the ones that makes the short list of
That's pretty
projects,
cool.
right? So yeah,
That's pretty
definitely.
cool. I get that. I've felt like the things that I learned in doing this have definitely helped me in real life.
Mm-hmm.
That's really cool. I like that you have architecture as your passion. A lot of people would say, hey, if I could make money doing video game stuff, why would I ever work my normal job? So I respect that. I like that you've got something that you really like, that you can also keep doing something like, I mean, I think a lot of people would love if they could be like, oh yeah, I've got the, 200,000 subs on a YouTube channel. Just kind of do it for fun when I got time. So,
Well, I mean, here's the other thing. Like, fame is fickle. You could be famous one day, and the next day you've become irrelevant. It's
public
hard to
enemy
predict
number
these
one.
sorts of things. Exactly. Maybe you say something wrong or whatever. I commend anybody who decides to make this their sole profession, but I would caution anybody who wants to do this to consider that if they're going to do it, to take it like you would any other job. Like, you have to show up every day. You have to plan things out, think about your future. It is something serious, and it can be just as stressful, if not more so. Basically, it's basically like running a small business, because you are responsible for your own income. If you don't make a video, you might not eat nicely or at all that month, right? Or you might not be able to afford your rent for your house or your internet bill. It can be extremely stressful starting out. So, um, yeah, it
Yeah.
it's not just playing video games, sadly. There's a lot more to it than that.
Yeah. I mean, that's the stage I'm at.
I
Like,
know, I know. So
yeah.
that's what I want to say is that I commend you, man. I mean, it is a tough job to have. It is an extremely competitive, you know, place to be. Star Citizen, I think you're lucky to be in Star Citizen and to have had a foothold here, because if you try starting off making videos, and I'm starting to go off on a tangent talking shop, and I apologize. If you want to bring me
No,
back in, you
please.
can
No,
bring me
this
back
is, people want to hear this stuff. I think.
in. I always tell people, if they're going to start a channel, if they're going to start, either streaming. Well, first of all, say don't. But if they're going to start a YouTube, because I feel YouTube is better to start off with
Yeah.
than Twitch, because the discoverability is that,
Mhm.
don't choose a big game. It's very hard to grow choosing a big game, because you just get squashed by the big guys. You might get one video off, but it's more like winning the lottery. If you start
Yeah.
off with like a smaller game that's more niche, where you like really passionate about it, which is really important, then I think you'll grow, because your passion comes through in your videos. That helps people want to like watch you, and it just makes the job easier. If you hate what you're doing, it just, why do it? Why wake up in the morning, right?
Yeah.
So
I started to realize that when I was like 6 months in. I was like, wow, Star Citizen was a really good game to start off with. I mean, because I made a couple videos for Cyberpunk, and they did okay. But when I was doing the same sort of stuff for Cyberpunk that I do for Star Citizen, which is, kind of little market research, see what's going on at the moment, who the big players, all that kind of stuff, I was like, there are way too many people covering Cyberpunk for me to ever stand out.
exactly.
And
Exactly. Like, you just get buried in the amount of people. And who pops to the top, even on YouTube, are the people who've got the most likes,
Yeah.
the most views, and like the algorithm knows that that person's consistently posting huge videos, so they're going to get promoted over you.
Yeah.
In the browse features.
And they can put out, you got the big name. Let's say a recent example a lot of people are talking about, Jack Frags, huge YouTuber, and he's able to just go in, stream a couple minutes of gameplay, post that up on YouTube and get 500,000 views, whereas somebody else could have put in 10 hours of work and then thrown a video out and gotten absolutely nothing. It's like, that's Star Citizen. If you're doing that for something like Call of Duty or Battlefield or Destiny, it's just so much worse.
Yeah, and here's the other thing: is like people like that you're competing against actually have a team that go and edit the videos for them. They might have 1, 2, or 3 editors who are they give them the footage. They already know the style that Jack likes, and they put together a Jack Frags video.
Yep.
So yeah, it's a tough world out there.
Yeah.
I commend you, man. Good luck.
Thank you. I'm going to give it my best shot. Honestly, I'm more excited. Well, not more excited, but I'm equally as excited to see how your channel grows, because I see your channel getting very big in the future. And I think it'll be an interesting little test to see what happens with a hobby channel that goes that big.
Yeah, I'm actually frankly blown away. I haven't been posting as consistently lately, and yet my channel continues to grow. So you
got a good backlog, dude. Those architect reviews videos, I don't think ever get old.
Yeah, that's cool. I think that's another thing is, like, again, talking shop. I apologize, but evergreen content versus news content.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that really separates me from other people in the community, in the Star Citizen community, is that I produce content that's not it's not sensitive to the day or the month. It's just, you can go back and watch it anytime. Like my Caterpillar video, I'm looking as a year old. It's just as relevant today as it was when I made it, because the ship's not changed. It's the same, and it's still interesting to look at. So
yeah,
if you can find evergreen content to do that. Don't do news content if you can avoid it.
Yeah. It's another one of those things where there's kind of a balance, I realize, because if you start doing that kind of stuff too early, you might not have the people to carry it. You might not get that first initial boost. It'll be a little discouraging. It's weird. YouTube's weird. But let's get into talking about the game itself.
Yeah, for sure.
I guess first, actually, I want to talk about the games you've been playing. You just put out a video about Space Engineers, but you also were saying you started out with PlanetSide 2. Seems like you're into the building space age based games. Is that an overall genre for you, or are those two games just kind of what really had your attention before Star Citizen?
So I am definitely into space type games. Like, science fiction is the genre that I personally love. Though I do like fantasy genre from time to time. Like, I've been really enjoying The Witcher 3, but it's mostly like, science fiction stuff. And I started off doing PlanetSide 2, and eventually this is when I really started to grow. When I started covering Space Engineers passionately and making really cool projects and using my architectural skills to do stuff, like to build things, that's when I really started to take off.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Started to apply your passion.
Indeed. Did I answer your question? I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I mean, generally, it seems like those two games are ones that just really have your attention. You haven't really gotten into things like No Man's Sky or Elite Dangerous or any of those games?
And I did I made videos on those. Okay. I did cover them on my channel, and those videos did do fairly well, but I don't think that those games really catch me as well. So, like, the game, when I was growing up, my first MMO was Star Wars Galaxies, and that has remained to me to be like the best MMO I've ever played. And I've tried pretty much every well-known MMO out there, just like even at least a little bit, and nothing's really captured my imagination like the Star Wars Galaxies universe. Star Citizen is the first one to do that, and for that reason, the other games that I covered, I'm just not as interested in, because they don't really recapture that magic. The Elite Dangerous's scope is just too limited, and it's its art direction is not personally appealing to me. And the same goes for No Man's Sky. I love the art style of it, but it's just like a bit cartoony, and it's not that gritty lived in universe feel that the Star Wars universe has, which is what I think Star Citizen is going for. That's what I love about it. It feels like a gritty lived in universe. That's the universe that I want to virtually live in when I play a video game. So yeah, there's just nothing else out there. That's why I love, I guess I'm answering a different question now. That's why I love Star Citizen.
No, that's a good point.
Yeah.
And I think that actually speaks to a lot of people, because I get a lot of questions of like, hey, why don't you play other space games? And I'm actually probably different from a lot of the backers that come into this game, in that I never played an MMO before Star Citizen. I never even played a spaceship flying game, really, besides like the old Jedi Starfighter games and like the little ones that made it to console. I was always a console gamer. So I'm actually, a lot of times when I bring people onto this show, and I've heard all kinds of, sort of origin stories of how they got into it. Star Wars Galaxies is one that pops up. So I like to hear from people like you about what made that special and how that transferred over to Star Citizen. You said it was kind of that grittiness, that atmosphere, that world building. Is it also some of like the writing and the story? Do you get some of that from Star Citizen, or has that not really developed enough yet for you to know?
I don't think the story was ever the thing that made Star Wars Galaxies so special. What was special about it was just how much the developers tried to push the envelope of what was possible in the industry at the time. Like, they were one of the first MMOs, I believe, to have a fully customizable character, including height, weight, facial features. That was revolutionary at the time.
Yeah, we can't even do that in Star Citizen.
We can't even do that in Star Citizen. Like, there are games even to this day that don't have that level of customization. And then they went, like, they had, originally it was 32 professions with a Jedi that you could become a Jedi if you found the secret way that was unique to each character. You'd have to like master certain series of professions, and it was random, and if you were able to do that, you'd go through this whole theme park that was really cool. It felt special. Like, there was a huge amount of effort put into the immersion of the experience to make it your story. That's what's special about Star Citizen. That's what they share, in my view, is putting you in that universe. There's so much complexity to the environment, to the professions, to everything that you could do. Like, you could have a house on Tatooine that you could customize the interior of. You could place the house wherever you wanted to. You could make a city with your friends. You could have that city would have votes in there to who would be mayor, and that mayor would have the ability to change the shape and assign plots of land and make the cantina where people would hang out. You could have a bazaar where you would sell stuff there. And then you could go to the spaceport, hop into your spaceship that was also equally as complex, because each component of the spaceship was manufactured by a player. Like, there were players who would specialize in making the best, blasters or the best engine for your ship, which would make your ship better than other people in PvP when you went out into space in PvP. Like, you could fly up into space in a freaking spaceship. That was the Jump to Light Speed update, by the way.
Okay.
You could walk around in spaceships while they flew around in battle. And we're talking like early 2000s here.
Yeah, that's actually pretty crazy.
You could look out the window and see people fighting each other in TIE fighters and X-Wings, and you could fly next to an ISD. You could look out the window and see it. To this day, the only game that has done that is Star Citizen. Like, after that, people, like, it seems like the industry just gave up on being daring and making an amazing, immersive experience. So that's why I think a lot of people who loved Star Wars Galaxies love Star Citizen. Why they feel it's the spiritual successor that we didn't get out of, like, Star Wars: The Old Republic, which was something that I really was looking forward to and hoping was going to be the next Star Wars Galaxies, that turned out not to be. So yeah, I mean, I guess I hope that explains a bit of why it's so special. It's an amazing game for its age.
I mean, that kind of wraps it up. I mean, that's the whole flying around in spaceships, looking out and seeing other people fly in spaceships is part of, I would think that's top 3 things that Star Citizen does that really sets it apart in my mind. So I didn't even know there was another game that was doing that long ago. That's really impressive. And
it's pretty much the only game that was doing it that long ago. I mean, like, since then, there's no other MMO that's done it. And I don't know if there will be again aside from Star Citizen. It's just so expensive, you know?
And so that was like early 2000s?
Early 2000s, that's
Okay.
right.
Yeah, then that really does add context to the whole MMO drought that people have talked about that kind of got a resurgence in the 2010s. Because, yeah, that's an impressive trajectory to just kind of fall off and not have a space game that picks that up.
Yeah, it is. It's very sad. I think it's so niche, ultimately the Star Citizen community, the science fiction community in general is a niche community, and it's hard to get good games that we like.
Yeah, I'm making a video about that right now, actually.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, that was the whole Kickstarter pitch from Chris Roberts to begin with, was that, nobody's making these games. Let's prove that people want them by making a independently funded game by the backers. And here we are today with 500 million into the bank for it. And it's good. It's getting there.
It's getting there. Definitely proven that people want it. Now we just have to prove we can.
At the very least, people want it. Yes. Yeah. The proof is there.
So another game that you have covered recently, and then I promise everybody we will jump into the deep end, but you covered last year. I wanted to bring this up because I think it's coming out soon. Hardspace Shipbreaker. And this is a game I haven't gotten to play, but I have in my wish list, or actually I have it downloaded, and I'm just waiting for the launch because I want to jump right into this experience and get the most complete sort of like fulfilling salvage experience. What are your opinions on the game though? Have you played it since last?
I loved it. It was a really clever game with the way they use the technology. The graphics aren't like overly complex. It's not like Star Citizen, but the complexity that exists is with the way you're able to cut through ships and salvage them. It's a really involved experience where you have to think and strategize the way you want to take apart a ship so that you don't destroy it within the time frame. And from that sense, like it is extremely fun. It's not something that I would say that you could play forever. It's not like an MMO, but it's certainly something that you might want to pop open, once in a while and do, because it is a lot of fun. And in fact, I think it's actually, I believe people from CIG have played that, and it's one of the reasons why we are going to get freeform cutting for salvaging eventually. That is something that they want to put in. So I don't think it'll be to that level of complexity, but I do hope that they can get something close to that, because that, to me, is what salvage should be. That is the salvage experience. So I'm interested to see what you think of it after you play it.
Oh, yeah. From what I've seen, it looks very cool. And I'm constantly thinking when I see that game, I'm like, how far is Star Citizen going to go with this? That is always my question. We've seen the design notes on the website. We've heard them talking 10 for the chairman and around the verse and inside Star Citizen, all this stuff. How deep are these, really going to get? Because the salvage experience in a game that's dedicated to salvage obviously is amazing, but can they still make it fun in an MMO like Star Citizen?
Yeah, that's the question. I don't know. I hope so.
Yeah.
But ultimately we just got to see what they do with the concepting and where they go with it.
Well, I think it's time to jump into the main conversation. You made a video recently that
I did.
That was, some people would say, was very negative. It was honestly seemed like a pretty straightforward opinion piece about the current goings on of Star Citizen, the roadmap update, the development priorities. But ultimately, people kind of took it as you saying that you are tired of Star Citizen, that you're going to take a break, and in some cases that you are trying to lead the community in some certain way. Do you want to expand a little bit on that video, where your thoughts came from in that video?
Well, look, I don't think I'm trying to lead the community anywhere. I won't deny that I influence people's opinions. That just comes with the territory of having an audience, is that people tend to follow you because they agree with you or they think what you say has some kind of value. But ultimately, the video that I posted was, first of all, it was just, I wanted to inform people what I saw and the latest information that we received from CIG, what I thought that means, and in an honest way, just as passionate as I've made any other video. I was looking just to talk about something that I thought was really important, and that's it. I wasn't trying to make people feel down about the project. but there's been some really big goings on in the community with CIG and the news surrounding development that I think needs to be talked about, needs to be said. If you care about development, if you care about the future of Star Citizen, because there have been some really big changes and it's going to affect the future. So yeah, that's all I was trying to do. I wasn't trying to be negative. If you felt like it was negative after watching it, I think it's because the news isn't great and there's nothing I can do about that. There's no way to sugarcoat the reality of Star Citizen in 2022. It is what it is. I'm just telling you guys the truth the way I see it.
From the way I see it, there's really... It's funny enough, on that day that you posted the video, I mean, you said that you saw my own response to...
I did.
The feedback I received from people who watched that video. But it was funny because on that same day, I also was told that I was kind of being negative about the game, generally because of, my reaction to Inside Star Citizen not being positive enough. So I realized, you being told that video was negative might not actually mean that much. It can be a little bit, I think, taken as more than it's meant to, Like Moore said, you're in a position where you're affecting a lot of people's opinions, but generally you still have an opinion that you just kind of personally feel. It's not like you're putting out a message to try and sway anybody else, but more say what you're seeing, what you're observing.
Exactly. Yeah.
So what do you think is really the main... I actually... One of the things that you said in the video was that you feel like Star Citizen gameplay is going to be kind of on pause until Squadron 42 is complete. Did you mean that you feel like we're not going to get any major new additions like game loops or anything like that? Or you meant that there was actually not going to be like a major shift in the actual development of the PU?
I think that because they're focusing on Squadron 42, they are naturally not going to be focusing on any sort of new gameplay loops. That's a big step forward for Star Citizen. Now, I know that, and actually, Jake messaged me afterward. Jake Acapella, if he doesn't know, he's the guy who makes the posts for the roadmap to clarify some things. And the thing is that I knew it going into it. What he said was like that just because sorry, now I've lost my train of thought here.
No, take your time.
Give me 1 second.
Yeah.
I'm not like he wanted to clarify that that the core gameplay team is moving to Squadron 42, but that doesn't mean that we're not going to get new gameplay for Star Citizen. It's just that they're focusing on Squadron 42 first, and then that stuff is going to be translated into the PU.
Sure.
The way I'm looking at it is that if they're focusing on Squadron 42, those gameplay systems are for a single player campaign. And those aren't necessarily meant or built to work in a multiplayer environment. They're going to be focusing on things that are working to put out their on rails single player game. I don't think that there's going to be a whole lot of gameplay loops that come out of that for a multiplayer environment. I think we've got to be realistic about the way Star Citizen is going to feel going forward with gameplay. We're not going to get anything new. What they're working on right now, they're going to finish out, but after salvaging and after what's the other thing, refueling and the cargo refactor. Yeah. Actually, the cargo refactor has nothing to do with gameplay. Is another thing. Like that's not the core gameplay pillar. That's a mechanical team.
Yeah.
So it's a tool, right? So like for example, when that comes out, whereas before we might have gotten some gameplay a loop that goes with it. So like for example, the ability to pick up something that's delivered from a terminal and put it in your ship as part of a mission, we're probably not going to get that because that's a gameplay loop. The mechanic will be there for it to be possible, but it won't actually be part of the game necessarily, right? You're not going to experience it in any meaningful way until the gameplay team thinks of a way to use that technology in a way where it affects gameplay on the whole in a big way. So yeah, like we are going to get stuff, but it's not going to be significant and it's going to be hand-me-down stuff. That's all I meant by that. And that's what they said. I mean, that's basically what they told us. They're working on Squadron 42 and that's their focus. You got to expect that the stuff we're going to get is going to be for the multiplayer environment.
So you when you look at something like, so let's take an example, say repair.
Yeah.
And that's something that they have to be working on right now on the tech side of things, not necessarily the feature side. And that gets made for Squadron 42. They have an application for it there. So those tech teams pass it on to the feature teams, right? Or the feature teams are who are developing it for Squadron 42, and then they pass it on. Is that right? Or I have it backwards.
Exactly. So I think that's an interesting, and I think this is a good example. The way I read it from what they posted, from what Jake posted, is that if they're working on something like repair, that's going to be used, say, on the Idris for one of the missions where, you have to repair a plate or something, then that'll make its way into the PU. But the thing is, I don't think that system is going to be that involved. It's not going to be that thought out, because maybe that system is only needed for a very specific thing in the story. They're not going to develop anything beyond that. That maybe a few animations. The same way, for example, like the only ship right now in the game that has interactive buttons where like the character presses the buttons is the Gladius. The reason why that is because the Gladius is the hero ship of Squadron 42. So like we'll get some stuff that's functional for specific areas of the game that benefit Squadron 42, but the way I see it, it's not going to broadly affect the game in a meaningful way.
You think they're going to just keep focusing on sort of the toned down alpha implementation of a feature, make sure it works in game, and then move on to the next thing? Kind of like what they did with, say, derelicts, to be honest. They put in derelicts a long time ago. They showed us all the concepts of what they wanted to do, but they put in the working, functioning version that worked for the PU, and then just kind of left it until now. Feel like that's kind of what they're going to continue to do with these features?
Yeah. I mean, I guess I don't know what happened with that, man, to be honest. Now that you bring it up, I remember making a video on derelicts and being really excited for it. I don't know if you guys remember that video.
I do.
But if you want, go look it up. I posted an some ISC footage in there, and they showed all these really cool wrecks, like a crashed Starfare that had like these tarps and fences set up, and a crashed Freelancer that was really cool looking. What happened to that stuff? Where it disappeared into the ether with nobody saying anything about it. Stuff like that really bothers me.
Yeah.
So
I call it
I don't know.
Hurston armor effect.
What happens?
It's one of those things. So
Indeed.
Let's see. The cargo refactor was one that you mentioned. And you said that that's kind of a mechanic. So that's not necessarily going to come into the game and we're going to get a bunch of missions that are like, hey, load this cargo into this ship because now you can do that. But it will be something that plays into everything that we've already been doing, right? It kind of adds on another layer of, I don't want to say immersion, but kind of just not gameplay, but it adds another layer of complexity onto the things we're doing, like hauling cargo, picking up salvage, maybe taking mining materials across the system. It will expand on the gameplay, right?
It'll expand on maybe, existing gameplay loops a little bit. I think that's something that we're just going to have to see. I think it's an exciting technology, but I think that it may be more limited than we believe going into release.
That's fair.
Because like I said, so we have physicalized cargo, right? And it's supposed to make it so that we can physically place these boxes onto our ship. But doesn't that mean that every station, every landing zone, every outpost has to have a delivery area for cargo that's functional? Mm-hmm. That's a lot of work. That's a lot of mechanics that goes into that. What about the terminal and how does that work? How does the cargo center on the stations connect to that function of the game? How does each ship work with these physicalized cargo containers? How do they latch down? Do they there's just so many different factors that are question marks for me. I don't think it's necessarily going to be that impactful on first release. And it's hard to define what is gameplay too. Like, how do we say, what is the pillar doing that would change the way the cargo refactor works for Star Citizen? I don't know. It's hard to understand.
And the expectations of that gameplay are different for everybody. But
exactly.
That's a good point that I've constantly thought about with the cargo systems or the stations. Really is, if they're talking about having all these pieces of cargo in the cargo center of a space station, how does that get to our ship? Do we roll that out? Do we see that being rolled out?
Exactly. How well have carts worked?
Yeah. Let's just kill every cargo hauler now. They're not moving their boxes.
They're going to move the first box and be dead.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think that's honestly one of the major things that holds me back from being truly all about, what's coming up in Star Citizen is that we still haven't seen a rollout of a major feature all at once like that. The cargo refactor's been going on. I think they were talking about doing previs last spring. So, they were working on it in earnest, I assume, from at least late last summer until this summer. And you kind of hope that all of those things that you were just mentioning are the kinds of things that they're knocking out throughout these months. But then you also kind of wish that because we're in this open development process, we were getting some of those updates, whether in monthly reports, whether in ISC. Right? No, I mean, we've gotten like very minimal updates. Like, yes, we're working on it. It's coming along. Like, we're moving the here for server meshing. But yeah, we don't get those kinds of details.
No, we don't. And look, I'm not trying to be negative. I really am not. I'm just trying to be realistic and prepare my viewers when I make these kinds of videos for what I think reality is going to be. I think in the past I was maybe a bit too optimistic. I inflated expectations for what that initial release of the feature was going to mean in the game. And it always left me disappointed in the end. It was always less than I expected. And I think that now I'm taking a different approach, and I'm trying to look at what the trends have been in the past for releases for tier 0 or tier 1 features, and seeing, how effective those actually were in tangibly affecting gameplay, and translating that into the expectations for the future. So when I'm looking at the cargo refactor, I think we have to expect the actual absolute minimum for what that means. And that's probably what it's going to be, because if they've not been talking about it, if they've not been showing it off in ISC, it probably means that they've not been focusing on it. And here's another thing. And I know this is going to be it's going to sound really negative. I'm not trying to be negative. I'm just trying to be real here.
That's the name of the episode.
if they were focusing on Star Citizen before, and now they're being very open about focusing on Squadron 42, and before they were focusing on Star Citizen and really not getting that much done, how much do you think they're going to get done now that they're focusing completely on Squadron 42 for a lot of the teams? I mean, if they didn't get a whole lot done before, now I can't imagine the first tier 0, tier 1 releases for anything is going to be great until Squadron 42 comes out.
Well, I would say
it's not the focus. It's not the focus anymore.
I 100% believe that they're getting better initially releasing things. I do think that the release of Salvage is going to be better than the release of the medical feature, which was better than the release of mining. Maybe not better than the release of medical, but definitely better than what we got with mining. I think that, well, at least I'm hoping
medical. I don't know, man. Medical has been. I feel like mining's got a lot of patches, right? Mining's had a lot of tweaking done to it.
Yeah.
Medical's not been out for that long, but medical's basically non-functional in my view right now.
Yeah,
it's in a pretty bad state.
Went back on medical on that one. Yeah. But in terms of the first time we got mining, because I was looking back at how that was, and granted, that was like 5 years ago, but I do assume that the same difference we would see there would at least point towards a better polish or more feature complete edition if it's something that they're working on for Squadron 42, and that's what they say they want to do. I guess we just have to wait and see if they actually do it. But we've seen their initiatives before. We've seen staggered development. We've seen other things that they've talked about in terms of changing up their development practices. And just like always, it'll be, I guess, a test of time to see what actually happens from this change. But I do get a sense that, like you said, you were over-enthusiastic about features. I've certainly been over-enthusiastic about features. I think everybody, including Chris, has been over-enthusiastic about certain things in Star Citizen. And at this point, we're getting to a point with the game where a lot more of the debate is development-focused as opposed to, are we even playing anything? You see people talking about, hey, is the medical system working correctly? Should it be doing this? Should it be doing that? Rather than the fact that we can't even put a med pen into our own leg to save our lives. So I think as that conversation kind of changes, everybody is going to start to mellow out a little bit more. So it's just a lot more to talk about.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to be down. Like I said, I'm just trying to be honest here. CIG has definitely gotten better. You're absolutely right. every time they release a feature now, it's definitely better than it was before when they released it. And but I think that may just come with the territory of them having better tools to begin with, the teams being more experienced with Star Engine. That's the engine that Star Citizen is built on,
Yeah.
and that there are more features to support new features when they come online. Everything's cumulative, right? So yeah, I think it makes sense. I think we'd have to worry if things were getting worse as they were being released.
Yeah, that's true. That would not be good. So how do you feel now about the things that they're saying in terms of the development versus what they initially said last fall? Was it like August or so, September, when they first told us about kind of consolidating the teams? You're feeling like they've gone a little bit further now, and because in your video, that's what you were drawing attention to, right? The statement that they made just recently versus what they were saying last year. I don't remember if you had brought up what they said last year.
Yeah, basically what they said is that they're moving the core gameplay pillar team to Squadron 42, and that's a big deal. That's what I was saying in the video. It's a small part of that post, but it's actually a super big deal. So because that team now is working on a single player campaign that we know virtually nothing about at this point. Like, it's been 2 years since the last post they made on Squadron 42. We don't know where that is. We don't. It's like all that development time is going to a black hole as far as we're concerned.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And do you feel like that's different from what they said before?
Not necessarily. So, like, before they did talk about a shift towards a focus on Squadron 42, but now it's maybe more overt. I felt like this was a change because I at least knew that there was a team working on gameplay. There was a gameplay pillar team for Star Citizen. Mm-hmm. So that, it maybe wasn't a fully 50-50 split. I think it was at that time maybe more of like a 30-70 split on 70% being on Squadron 42. But now it seems more like, it's a 90-10, where 90% is working on Squadron 42 and 10% is working on Star Citizen. They'll never say that, though. Here's the other thing, is like, yeah, obviously everything's on the same engine, right? And everything in Squadron 42 can be in Star Citizen, but will it be in Star Citizen now? I mean, there's just so much content that we've seen in the few trailers that we've gotten that we don't have in Star Citizen. And I do hear from people who have signed NDAs who can't tell me what they've seen, only that they've seen a ton of stuff that they've never seen before when they've seen the studio.
Right, when they go to the studio tours. Yeah.
When that we don't have in game. So yeah, I just we're probably not going to see a lot of that hard work for some time, at least 1 to 2 years, according to the COO of CIG. So
you hear those things, hey, it's probably got a lot of stuff saved up in the back that they've been working on. Boy, I hope, but I'm not super. I don't really expect it.
Listen, like, I'm not saying the floodgates are going to open. Don't get me wrong. Don't misunderstand what I'm saying. I'm saying that the development, they're holding stuff behind doors, not because floodgates are going to open, but because it takes additional effort to put that into the multiplayer environment. It's not something that you can easily translate. Gotcha. For example, I've talked to CIG about the Idris. I don't know if this was public or maybe it was a private conversation. I'm sorry if I'm revealing something, but like the Idris itself, the reason why it's not in game, one, it is the thing everybody's heard, is that they don't want to ruin it, they don't want to spoil it. Sure. I think that's kind of BS. The reality of it is that the Idris for Squadron 42 is a bespoke Idris that has unique locations on board for the story that you won't have in the Idris that you get in the PU.
Right.
And in order for that to work for the PU, it's going to require a lot more work, because some of the stuff on the ship is just set up for the story and for the NPCs that walk around in the hallways. It's not set up for you to use. Like the flight systems, the turrets, all that stuff requires additional work for it to be quality level for the PU. Mm-hmm. So it's just stuff like that. Like, they're going to have a lot of work done, but it's going to be work that's for the story, for the single player campaign. That's going to require a lot more work after Squadron 42 comes out for it to become part of the PU. The floodgates will open in a sense, is my feeling, but not immediately. Like, it's going to be a trickle out after Squadron 42 releases of, patch after patch of integrating like the new glaive, the new scythe, the kingship. Hopefully, I hope to see the kingship in the PU at some point to fight.
Mhm.
So yeah,
God, that'd be scary.
that'd be really scary. I mean, could you imagine? Okay, now we're going to speculation, La La Land. But I mean,
Oh,
I
we're about
always
to get there. Don't
imagine,
worry. We're
yeah,
headed there.
flying into Vandal space for the hell of it and just like trying to shoot at the kingship for lulz. I mean, like I'm definitely gonna do that, and even if I lose all my stuff, because it'll be fun.
When I read some of the lore that comes out for this game, the lore specifically, that like the stories where they talk about, oh yeah, this pilot in the military experienced a Vandal ambush here or something. The way that they describe it, I'm like, I do not want to do that in game. That sounds terrifying. It actually, I love the way that they're setting it up, and I really do hope that the Vandal are honestly rare in the PU.
Rare and terrifying. Yeah, like I think the best scary movies and suspenseful movies or TV shows are ones that don't like put the antagonist in your face, or the spooky thing in your face. It's like something that's lurking. There's anticipation. It's done artfully. I hope the Vandal are that way too. Yeah, I don't want them to be in your face, because then they become less scary, right? You get used to them. So
yeah. We've seen a trailer with them now. Put them away.
Mm-hmm.
So let's shift then to, I guess you could call it a more positive topic, but really, what kind of stuff are you actually looking forward to with Star Citizen coming up? So we talked about the cargo refactor. Server meshing is obviously a big topic. We don't need to touch on that. But kind of the more, I guess, tangible stuff, the stuff you could put your hands on. Some people would say salvage. Some people might say a new ship. Anything in particular for you?
I've been saying for years that the nav mesh tech is the most interesting and door opening technology that they have to work on. I like, okay, so I am a man who likes to do many little hobbies and projects. I actually created a map for Bannerlord on Unity, where I had to create a nav mesh, and it gave me a new appreciation for how difficult making nav meshes are. So basically, the way it works is that there's a code that's written into the engine that at the tessellation of the terrain. This is just how this engine does it, and places down. It guesses where these tessellated planes are supposed to be placed on the geometry of the plane to tell the AI where to walk. If that invisible navigation mesh, this invisible plane isn't there, the AI doesn't know that there's land there to walk on.
Right. Yeah.
The problem, so like to do that on a map, I had to have the computer generate it, and it was really messy. Like the tessellation was too complex, and the more complex it is, the harder it is for the navigation or the AI to navigate. So if there's lots of tessellation in it, it'll get confused. It'll start walking into walls. It'll start going in circles because it can't figure out how to get past a certain zone. The challenge that I then realized for Star Citizen was that they have an entire planet surface to do this for, not a small like 500 meter by 500 meter map that I was working with. And that kind of blew my mind. To have to do that on that scale requires a new technology that just doesn't exist. I don't know how games like No Man's Sky do it, but to do what they have to do for Star Citizen, where they can go on and off ships, in and outside of buildings, operate vehicles, interact with players, like that is insane. So it doesn't seem insane. Here's the other thing that and it's kind of touching on a tangent a bit. The tough thing with a technology like this is that people think they've seen it before because they've played games like Call of Duty, where they're getting off as the protagonist with a bunch of other protagonists in your squad, being inserted into an area to do an operation, and it looks amazing. Like people are jumping off of helicopters, but the thing is, like, that's all scripted. That can't work for a multiplayer environment, in a live environment. The AI actually has to do that systematically, going from one to the other. You can't do a rigged thing, or it gets really janky for different scenarios, right? So when this technology comes online, where they can link different nav meshes from interiors to exteriors to ships, because that's what they're talking about, it's going to be a very different experience. It's going to be a very transformative, very tangible experience, because they can start doing missions where there's a ballista driving across the surface of of Daymar that you have to go and bomb, for example, or the bunker mission that you take now is being guarded on the surface by tanks and ground troops that you have to shoot at. Like that becomes possible. It's
Yeah.
something that's still going to require work on CIG's part, the mission team, and the AI team set up that stuff. But I also think that this is where the Squadron 42 work can come into play, because the AI that they're setting up for Squadron 42 is going to use this technology. They can start to use that to create AI opponents surrounding bases for these missions.
Yeah.
So that I think for me is maybe the single most exciting thing this year, if they're able to have it come online before server meshing. And yeah, I know the AI is terribly because of the tick rate, but just to be able to bomb a stationary target, at least there's something to shoot at.
Yeah.
At least it feels somewhat alive.
Yeah.
And there are those moments where the server's got only like 10 people on it, and then the AI is working amazing. Like those are fun experiences. I would love to have that, even if it's rare, like a 1 in 10 experience. Just to have that 1 in 10 experience for Star Citizen, I think it would be a big step forward for me. It would make content creation so much easier. It would make events easier because there's something that we can go and attack together and make an event out of. So yeah, I mean, and Fauna too. Like there's if you look at the progress tracker, they've been working on stuff like the Yeti, and I don't. There's another the pod things.
The Stalker.
Hurston.
Yeah, that was the Yeti, and then the cow and the whale, I think.
Exactly, and those are things that are small but big in another. Like to make the world feel alive, we need to have things like creatures that move around. We need to have ships that fly around, NPCs that walk around. Otherwise, it feels empty. So it's a big step for immersion. It's a big step for gameplay. It's a big tangible. It unlocks a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Aside from that, I mean, I think I'm less excited for stuff like salvage and the cargo refactor for the reasons that I told you, is that we just don't know what tier 1, tier 0 is going to look like. What gameplay is actually attached to that change? Is it just going to be like the push pull mechanic that they added into the game, where it's just like, there's a cart you can push, but we're going to disable it because it doesn't work? Or is it going to, like, is going to be slightly more functional, like the medical gameplay? I don't know. So wait and see thing. But nav mesh is nav mesh. It is an exciting thing, and I'm absolutely positive that when that comes online, they're going to have at least a couple of missions ready to go to just showcase it, to demonstrate its proof of concept.
I can't wait to see what kind of great AI glitches we're going to get with the the nav
I mean,
mesh.
like, so there was this this is pretty hilarious. Off to, again, a little bit of a tangent, but there was this bug in the PTU earlier this year it was last year, for Invictus, where the dome of Microtech wasn't collidable. So people were like, I don't know if it was the first one to discover this, but I was landing on, like, the part where they run around in the circle, and just allowing the NPCs to run on board my ship, and I was just like exploding and like throwing NPCs like confetti over cities. It was amazing. It was so derpy. It was great. So
that's hilarious. Just open the ramp and watch as they all jog on board.
Yes, exactly. It's great. I wish I'd have saved a video of that. Sadly, I didn't record it.
I'm just waiting for like the nav mesh to glitch, and you're flying through the atmosphere on like Hurston. Just some random NPCs walking through the air smashes your ship, and the whole thing blows up. Just like the most ridiculous stuff from that kind of feature. But the nav mesh, I guess I sort of view it in the same way I view the cargo refactor, in that I hope at least that it will bring some more depth to the gameplay we already have. Bring those missions, those AI we fight outside. Like I would hope that the cargo refactor would bring some additional experiences to cargo hauling. But yeah, the nav mesh, I think, is probably the biggest sort of, in my opinion, slept on feature coming this year. I don't think it's generating as much excitement as I expected.
Yeah, so like I think there's a big difference between the cargo refactor and the AI nav mesh.
Okay.
And that's, the cargo refactor requires a lot of other technologies to make it interesting. Like we talked about, like the way to deliver it, to like the different cargo sizes, like all that stuff are big question marks. We don't know if they're done yet. We don't know if they're going to be ready. But we do know that if the nav mesh works on a planet's surface, you just stick the bunker guy on the planet's surface, and voila, you got a guy you can shoot at. It's like, it doesn't, from what I've done in my very minimum gameplay or game development experience, there's very little, right? Just for, Unity
Yeah.
engine. The AI doesn't really care where the nav mesh is, so long as there's a nav mesh to work with. So at least we can have somebody running around shooting. And they showed it off too. They showed a guy that's usually down in the bunker running around and navigating around obstacles. So,
I'm glad they showed that. I really am.
Yeah.
Because
so I'm excited.
It's kind of hard for us to know about the nav. They've showed us like NPC locomotion, but I had no idea what a nav mesh was going to look like or what kind of how it was applied. So I was glad that they showed us that.
Yeah, and that's exactly what it looks like in the game engine that I worked with before. It's just like a plane that's on top of the ground geometry that's tessellated that the AI uses to navigate, to understand what the terrain looks like.
Okay.
So,
looking at, actually, we are pretty long, so I'm gonna ask you a couple questions here, more about the game in general and kind of your feelings, and we'll start to wrap things up. But are you? I guess a year ago I would have assumed this was your main game moving forward. Now, though, I'm kind of curious, are you feeling like you want to diversify a little bit more? And you said, in your last video, it might be best for some people to take a step back and check in on it every now and then to see how things are going. How do you feel about it compared to where you were in the last couple of years?
This has been, I am probably at the most, how do I phrase this? I have not wanted to take a break this bad for a long time. But my break doesn't necessarily mean a break in content. So what I mean is, like, when I stream or I'm playing by myself, like just relaxing after a day of work where I only got like an hour to play a video game, I might not pop Star Citizen it. I might pop I've been playing The Witcher 3, like I said. I'm really enjoying it. It's the first time I played it.
Great game.
I might play that instead. Exactly. Yeah. Amazing game. Very, very, very few bugs. It's enjoyable. There's this fun story, fun characters. I really love the show. That's kind of what got me into it.
You all heard it here first. Morph is becoming a Witcher 3 content creator.
Exactly.
Just a little behind the game.
The thing is, like, nothing really strikes my fancy to create content on other than Star Citizen. Still, maybe Space Engineers. Like, maybe I might do some content on that. But because I'm taking a break from Star Citizen doesn't necessarily mean I'm gonna stop making Star Citizen content.
Yeah, I get you.
Sense. Yeah. I only make a video once every week or once every week and a half. So really, like, I can make. And I want to make a video, like, I'm thinking already, like, I want to make an architect reviews, like, very naturally feeling like I want to make one, because making an architect reviews isn't as frustrating as trying to make a gameplay video. I'm on Star Citizen. Basically, I'm talking about a ship using my expertise. As long as I can walk around in the ship, which usually Star Citizen lets me without any issue, I can make a video. I can make some cool shots. So usually, I've had some very frustrating problems in the past falling through elevators. That was days like those make you want to just quit covering Star Citizen altogether.
Right. Yeah. The camera glitch is really your Banu Merchantman video, your architect reviews Banu Merchantman video is going to be one for the ages. I think no pressure, but like just looking at the way that ship's coming together, I can't even believe it.
I mean, like, I've seen some of the concept work and some of the gray box already, and it is just blowing me away the level of detail of that work. And here, let me say this: as somebody who works in the professional design field, curves are one of the hardest things to figure out, to resolve, to make look good, because straight lines, the eye wants to see straight lines that are finished in a way that is satisfying. But to make a satisfying curved object is a lot more challenging, because if it's not the right shape, it looks a little lumpy, it looks a bit like a tumor. There are so many things that could accidentally look like. It becomes so difficult. And then to light those spaces, it is definitely going to be, I would say, a masterwork by CIG to pull that off. I've seen the work that they've done already for other ships, and I've got complete confidence in their art ability to make this ship seriously, hands down, no joke, the most impressive ship ever made for a video game.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding here. Like, there's no other game out there, I think, that will have as beautiful of an interior, like for the forms, like these wild organic forms, than Bandit Merchantman.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm very, very excited to see it. There's some cool stuff coming up. I didn't think that goes for a lot of the ships in Star Citizen. There really isn't a game out there that's this detailed, that have ships that look this good. Maybe there's a hero ship from a specific game. Like I've heard what was that? The what's it called? There's a really famous game from EA,
Mass
science
Effect?
fiction game. Mass Effect, right? Yeah, the Mass Effect. I
The
never
Normandy.
played it. I'm sorry.
Oh my
Normandy,
God.
Yes.
Morph.
The Normandy. Yes.
You ever
I
played
never
Mass
played
Effect?
it. I played Andromeda. I played Andromeda for a little bit. It was like the terrible game, so it kind of like spoiled my experience.
Oh no.
A bit. Yeah. It wasn't that good. But anyway, so like it was actually pretty hilariously bad. The like the facial rigging and stuff. But anyway, that's besides the point. Like the hero ship for that game is really beautiful. I've seen images of it. It's really impressive. But that's like one ship, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's not the whole ship. Like you can't go in every nook and cranny of it. Star Citizen, like every ship, you can go every nook and cranny, and it's like all designed. Like there's no game like that out there. That's another reason why I love this game.
Yeah.
Star Citizen. It's just the level of detail and the level of care. Here's the thing, like guys, like when I make a video like I just made, it doesn't mean I don't love Star Citizen anymore. I'm just being honest about it. It isn't a great time for the game, but the game is still amazing. There's still amazing developers working on it. So
something that I said recently, people go to way too much 0 100, you know? And when somebody like Morph puts out an opinion on one of these things, it is not a 0 100. It's not. You're just saying how you feel in the moment, but everybody feels different times, and everybody has more to an opinion than just what you hear. So yeah, if somebody's putting out a video like that, it's definitely best to maybe check out the stream, right? Like you stream live. I'm sure you talk more about the video in depth there. Feel free to go on there and ask the person about the video and their true opinion, because a lot of the times you're not hearing all of it.
Exactly. But I will warn you, I can become quite upset at times with Star Citizen.
Yeah.
In my streams. Like,
it's
a very honest experience. Like sometimes I lose it on the game. Like this is like you know, like this
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I keep my bleep button ready for Star Citizen.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay. Last question then is something that I've always wondered about. You, like I said, you know, your architect reviews videos. That's how a lot of people know you. You've always been a ship guy in my mind, but everybody's got something that they truly want to do in the game. What is your idea of the Star Citizen gameplay when the game is actually, let's say, theoretically, let's give it some time. 15 years down the line. Like this game is good, it's mature, everything is in, and we're loving it. What is that dream gameplay that you want?
For my community, my dream is to have us having is for us to have a constant on the move fleet, to push our way back to New Armitage, which is, push our way to New Armitage, which is in the lore of the game was the first place that the Vandals struck. In the lore of our org, we're like the remnants of the people who lived on that world. We were the colonists. We were pushed out, and so we want to retake our homeworld. So I want to live out like that sort of idea with our community. It kind of brings us all together in a sort of like Battlestar Galactica-esque fleet, you know, fighting the Cylon sort of experience. So I'm looking forward to something like that. But when I play on my own, I'm also kind of looking forward to that solitary experience where I've got like this little hut somewhere that's my home, full of like a collection of cool and exotic things hidden off on some desert world, where I've got my, you know, Razor Crest parked or something like that, you know.
Yeah.
I kind of want to have that experience occasionally too. The bounty hunting, living on the edge, the outer rim, gritty, lived in universe sort of experience. So I've got those two things that I'm really looking forward to having in Star Citizen in a more complete version.
Okay. The dual sides of Morph. That
Indeed.
Solitary, somewhere out in space living thing is like, I think that's the dream. I think that's honestly the biggest thing that CIG needs to nail. So allow people to just go out there and self-sustain with like a small outpost. Looking forward to that.
Exactly. Yeah, definitely.
Well, Morph, thank you so much for this conversation. We've been going at it for quite a while.
We have.
So to close out, there's still so much I want to talk about, honestly. So we'll have to talk another time at some point. But
yeah,
to close out, I'd like to just tell everybody where they can find you, what kind of content you're making. I mean, most of the people who are listening to this know you, but just to put the name out there, I will have all of the links down below, but please let people know.
Yeah, you can find me on YouTube, youtube.com/Morphologis. Same thing for Twitch. Twitch.tv/Morphologis. I stream every Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday. Though lately I've been pretty lax with that because I've just been kind of taking a break just in general. A little stressed out. But yeah, I make a lot of Star Citizen content, and I stream other games occasionally too. I'm trying to do a little bit more variety of stuff on my Twitch channel now that I'm kind of taking a step back a little bit from only streaming Star Citizen. But yeah, if you're looking for Star Citizen content, I'll still be making that on my YouTube channel for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, streaming is the place to experiment with. Do you only stream on Twitch?
Yes, for now. I've been thinking about streaming on YouTube again, but we'll see. It's a thing I'll have to think about for some time.
Yeah, it's a decision to make.
It is.
Well, thanks again so much for taking your Sunday night to be with us here. Thanks to all the supporters who came to listen to this live. If you were listening to the podcast and you'd like to support it and keep it free for everybody else, ad-free, feel free to sign up on Patreon, on Ko-fi, or support the podcast directly wherever you're listening, Apple, Amazon, Anchor, wherever that might be. But I'd like to thank everybody for being here. I hope you enjoyed this discussion. And one final time, Morph, thank you so much as well for coming and being a part of this.
Absolutely my pleasure. And, like at the end of this conversation, we've discovered that we've gone for so long, but it hasn't felt that long. I've really just enjoyed talking about Star Citizen with you. So yeah, like invite me back anytime. Let's figure out a time. If it's difficult because of the time difference.
Yeah.
But, like I'm totally down for another discussion. So
awesome,
dude. Got to figure out when and how.
That's great. I love it because you got a lot to say and there's a lot to talk about and just it never ends. But thanks again. This has been episode 40 of the Launch Sequence Podcast, and we'll see you guys next week.